What's going on, my fellow bud smokers and movie lovers, and welcome to another episode of 5 on It, a show where we do two things, smoke doobies and review movies. We are your podcast plugs. I am Francisco. He is Sir Fraser. And on today's episode, we are doing, I want to say, our first international movie,
Yeah, that's right.
Because this is in
First foreign
subtitles. It is titled Another Round, starring Mads Mikkelsen. Came out in 2020, a nice black comedy drama, a little three-piece hitter. But before we dig into the weeds on that, Sir Fraser, what you puffing on over there?
Man, we're hitting this token blunt. This is Sativa Ghost Train Haze.
Yes, sir. You might have heard some of these names before, like I'm also puffing on Pink Cookies. There's a lot of overlap when it comes to the weed we be smoking, because once you find a goodie, you want to stay in that lane. So,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, so let's dive right in. So this movie, just a heads up, there will be spoilers. So a summary for this movie is: facing a midlife crisis, 4 Danish friends organize their lives around the theory that life would be better if people were a little drunk at all times.
Now, isn't that lovely? Would life be
Grand.
just grand, just walking around, just a little buzz going on all the time?
Yeah. Well, this movie was directed by Thomas Vinterberg, and it stars Mads Mikkelsen.
He's the main
main lead.
dude. I mean, I'm sure the other 3 guys that plays his friends, I'm sure there's like some good actors and everything. Mm-hmm. But Mads,
Not as well known.
No, not as well as known as Mads Mikkelsen is. And just quick note, obviously we usually know Mads as such like a villainous role. He's got that kind of look, whether it's the MCU when he was in Doctor Strange or when he was in James Bond in Casino Royale.
Yep, Le Chiffre.
Yeah, but this is a nice change of pace.
Or Hannibal Lecter, to your point. I mean,
he
plays menacing characters, but he's also played. He's also done more nuanced roles, like this one. Remember, he was in Rogue One. He was the architect of the Death Star, I believe.
Yeah, he was
one of the main architects.
He's the father, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that gets got at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of, man, I can't think of the name off the top of my dome, but he's the actor. He was in that show that was on Netflix for a few bit. He was in The Secret Invasion. He played the alien guy. I forget what his name is. I can't think of it, but he's a good actor too. He's in Rogue One. He's having like the face off with Mads Mikkelsen in that scene.
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, he is a good actor. He plays good villains as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. That's gonna bother me. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick while we're talking about the show.
But these two have paired up before. The director, Vinterberg and Mikkelsen, they paired up for The Hunt, which is a movie I haven't seen, but that's also another foreign flick where, Madsen plays a innocent teacher who is falsely accused of child molestation, and that's kind of like the gist of it. But this is, I believe, the second project that they've partnered up with. And just to give this movie, this movie deserves the credit that that it garnered. It won Best International Feature Film at the Oscars, and Vinterberg was nominated for Best Director as well.
Yeah, unfortunately though, I gotta keep it 100 though. Because when I saw it, like, oh, this shit got nominated for a Best Film, and I did enjoy the movie, but I don't know if I would say this is Best Picture. I don't know if I can go that far. But then I look at the other nominees.
Best International Picture.
No, I think it was also nominated. It was nominated for Best Film overall too.
Oh, was it?
I believe so. I believe so. Let me pull it up, because that's when I saw. When I saw that it was nominated, I was like, what? Is that right? Because, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I don't know if I really thought it was that. Because that year you got Nomadland that won. The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, which was already on our reviewed list. Check it out if it's posted. Mm-hmm. Then we got another movie called Mank, and then Minari, Promised Young Woman, Sound of Metal. Hold on, am I tripping? Okay, maybe I am tripping. I thought I did see it.
No, I think it was Best International.
Okay, I am tripping. I take that back.
It was only nominated for 2 that year. And I hate to say only, because, I mean, that's amazing in and of itself to be nominated. But, yeah, it was nominated for Best International Picture, and he was nominated for Best Director.
Granted, I mean, I don't want to throw any shade, but I just read off that list. I mean, Judas and the Black Messiah is a hitter. I haven't seen Nomadland, but, I mean, granted, I can't see every damn movie, but seems like that year was a little bit on the low side.
It's also disappointing that was it Shaka King who directed Judas and the Black Messiah, but he didn't get nominated for Best Director. I thought that was a big disappointment because that movie was excellent. Yeah, I mean, from the directing to the acting, I mean, to the whole cast. I mean, that essentially, like, we talked about this off screen or off camera. I mean, or off mic. You'll get what I'm saying. That both Daniel Kaluuya as well as Lakeith were nominated.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's one of those things where, like, you know, even like how they were talking about with Barbie and everything.
Yeah.
When you can nominate 10 things in one category, and then that category can kind of translate over to another one, where there's Best Picture to Best Director, but you go from literally 10 to 5, you're gonna have 5 people left off. And like I say, like looking at, maybe that's looking at the nominees for Best Director. Chloe Zhao won for Nomadland, that won Best Picture. So obviously that goes 1-1. Thomas was nominated for Best Director overall in another round. So I'll give him a little bit of love on that.
Yep.
David Fichtner from Mank, Lee Isaac Chung from Minari, and then Emerald Fennell for Promised Young Woman. I mean, I can't, because I haven't seen Minari or Promised Young Woman or Mank. I mean, David Fichtner.
Fincher, yeah.
Fincher.
I do like his. I mean,
I can't hate on that. And the other two, I never seen them, so I can't say whether or not they deserve that spot or not. But Judas and the Black Messiah was a great movie, so everybody should check that out. But you know, let's get back to another round. Though.
I know we definitely got in the weeds on that one, but yeah. I mean, to your point though, I think there were some really solid movies that came out that year, and this is definitely one of them, and that's reflected in the recognition it got at the Oscars. But to dive right in, man, I think one of the cool things I love about this, like we get this kind of prologue. Before we get the prologue, we get the opening title card, right, with the Kierkegaard quote. What is youth, the dream? What is love, the content of the dream? And I have to really kind of sit with that to kind of think, like, unpack that, because I think, like, they deliberately place Kierkegaard at 2 points in this movie, the beginning and then when one of the students is going through his exams and he's talking about Kierkegaard. And so I think that some of his core beliefs, like around anxiety and human experience, I think are very consistent throughout this. And that's why it's kind of almost like used as kind of a bookmark throughout, you know, 2 pivotal points in the movie. Yeah. But I love that it opens with that, and then immediately we kind of get this prologue that introduces us to the community and its drinking culture, right? And we see these kids getting shit faced in public, partying throughout the city, drinking like on the trains, handcuffing the train security to one of the seats. I mean, like it really just kind of establishes how normalized like drinking is in that culture.
Also, it is a bit nostalgia. I mean, you see all those like little drinking games. You start thinking about you're young. I mean, neither one of us are in our 20s anymore, and so we start thinking back of maybe when we were just like kind of doing some rambunctious stuff like that. It's like, goddamn, man. But there was like, when I was watching this on Amazon Prime, I think I've maybe mentioned this before in a previous review or something, but they do like little like trivia notes and stuff like that when you're watching on your phone. And so like I noticed that like they said like where does this movie take place in Norway?
Denmark.
Denmark. That Denmark was one of like the highest populated areas of like teenage drinking or something like that. I'm not sure if it like specified a type of year or anything like that, but I'm just like, yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's an example of it during the movie, especially when you see like one of the teachers just kind of offer it to him, just
to help him with his anxiety during the exam.
Which brings up other things because it does help him.
Yeah.
And so that brings up questions in itself.
Well, I mean, I think I think like this movie does a good job of setting up, like, kind of giving us a glimpse into the culture of the drinking culture of this community, but it also from there pivots into like the lives of our main characters, particularly Martin, played by Mikkelsen. We kind of see all these men kind of going through the motions of life. They're all middle-aged. They're all kind of facing, especially Martin, a kind of midlife crisis in that there's like a passion, like a joy de vivre that's just kind of faded from your life, whether not only in terms of your marriage, but also even your profession. And you can see that through Mad's character when his students, he's just a complete disconnect from his students.
Yeah.
And it starts there, but we also see it's clear in his relationship with his children as well as his wife.
Yeah.
But I think like it does a really good job of kind of grounding us in like just kind of middle class, just dissatisfaction.
But it's like this. It just starts you off. You're obviously putting him in the middle of something that he's been going through for
years.
A number of maybe a couple weeks, months, years. Mm-hmm. He's obviously been going through like something. So you're not catching him obviously at his highest moment. You're catching him literally probably at his lowest moment or one of his lowest moments.
Yeah.
But then, like, once you get the dinner scene, he eventually goes out to dinner to meet up with his friends to celebrate one of his buddies' birthdays. And that's kind of when you get a little bit of a dynamic of a little bit of all the characters around the dinner table.
Yeah.
And a little bit of kind of Martin's finally kind of coming clean with what's going on in his personal life. Because you're assuming something's going on, but you're not explicitly told until the party.
Yeah, and I mean, even kind of leading up to that, you kind of sense, I think how you pronounce his name, Nikolai. But you see Nikolaj, you see his relationship with his wife is very strained.
Yeah.
Even before they get to dinner, and I think that they all can identify something in Martin that has changed within him, in the way that he, kind of shows up in the world and in his relationships. And it's really Nikolaj who kind of identifies, like, I think it's more, there's some system going on, you know?
Det er fordi, der findes en norsk filosof og psykiater. Findes skorterud. Du er så dum. Nej, prøv at høre her. Som faktisk mener, at det er fornuftigt at drikke.
Aha. Når man kører bil, eller hvad?
Nej, men hele tiden. Han mener, at mennesket er født med en halv promille for lidt.
For lidt?
Ja. Okay.
And he reads him, and it really stirs something up in Martin's character, and he begins drinking because everyone else is drinking at this dinner table. He's the one that's abstaining.
Yeah.
And he ends up just throwing back wine after, glass after glass. Mm-hmm. And they all pretty quickly realize, like, what's going on, Martin? And he kind of speaks to them about just like how he's not who he was. He's lost something. Mm-hmm. And and he's going through this, like, he doesn't have the self-confidence. Mm-hmm. That's pretty apparent. And so I thought that was like a really great scene that kind of transitions to Nikolai kind of proposing this, this theory that's out there, right?
Yeah. Well, like, it just seemed like they kind of looked at him as like maybe he's like the best of them, because they make that comment about him like having like the PhD and getting like the grants or the loans to like to whether it's to teach or do some sort of research or something like that. They just
talks about the kids, right?
Yeah, they make a note like, "Have you done this? Did you apply?" And he's just like, "No, because the kids were young and something." So like the way they kind of like speak to him in that aspect to make it seem like he was supposed to be maybe like the best of them, and it's like, dude, you're supposed to go on and do like all these things, like what happened.
And he was a dancer. He's a jazz dancer, right?
Yeah.
That comes up, which is a really cool detail that comes full circle later on. What did you think about, like, obviously this is all part of the first act, right, where Nikolai talks to them about this theory
by the famed psychiatrist Finn. I'm gonna butcher his name, but Skardernerd. I'm gonna sound like the Swedish chef on Sesame Street. But just quick note here: we were talking about this off camera or off mic, but look at me, I'm gone too. But I'm gonna just read this off because this movie came out in, was it 2020? And Finn has some stuff come out in 2023, and it says Finn is a Norwegian former psychiatrist, psychotherapist, author, and professor. He was struck off the medical register by the Norwegian Board of Health Supervision due to a widespread pattern of professional misconduct in 2023. As such, he is no longer a medical doctor or psychiatrist. In 2024, he pled guilty to fraud. Damn.
You hate to see all of it.
He got a good movie maybe to like maybe show a little bit of the research that he was examining, but looks like this guy was kind of full of shit.
No, for sure. And it's like this theory that is attributed to him by Nikolai, right? He says that, according to this theory, human beings are born with a blood alcohol content that is, or BAC, that is 0.05% too low. And so the theory claimed that by maintaining, a consistent buzz throughout the day, which could be a couple glasses of wine, would make people more relaxed, more poised, more open, and more courageous in general. Mm-hmm. And there's a line there that to me was a highlight, and I think that really can speak to not only all the main characters in this movie, but I think to a lot of people, period. And he says, I could use a little more self-confidence and spirit. Mm-hmm. And I think like the thing that I think a lot of people can resonate with is, that kind of guards that many of us drop when we, have a good buzz. Yeah. You're not as self-conscious. You're a little bit more in the moment. Yeah. I think that the internal voice is kind of silenced or muted, at least.
That thing that
turned down for at least for stretches when you are getting that buzz going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like having that one or two drink just to take the edge off a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's always like pretty nice. But, a little bit of a good thing can turn into a lot of bit of a bad thing. And it definitely swirls a bit out of control for the group a bit as the story progresses. But it starts off like pretty well. It starts off working pretty well. Martin is like teaching. His students seem more engaged. Quickly before we get into like them drinking, before that, when they have like the when they have like the meeting with the parents and the students with Martin, and he was just like, well, it's kind of hard to learn when your faces are just stuck in the phone.
And the parents did not receive that well.
Well, and at first I was like, ooh, because that is true. You fucking kids be all up in your phones. But then
they did not want to hear that shit.
But the student came back with an overhand right of her own, because she was like, she listed like a specific like teaching that he was talking about, and she was like, what are you even talking about with this? Yeah. And he had nothing for her, at least. Well, that's what the movie intended. Yeah. And it's like, ooh, you came with a haymaker, but they were ready, and she came with an overhand right of her own and shut that shit down. Yeah, she said, take that fucking shit, bitch.
But I mean that's a great scene, right? Because it just shows the disconnect in his life, and from so many, both in his professional and personal life. And I think speaking to that kind of disconnect and alienation, I think I really dig the cinematography when they're grabbing dinner for Nikolai's birthday, because like as everyone's he's drinking, right? Like everything else is kind of a blur, right? Mm-hmm. He's physically present but disconnected from his environment, right? And I think that when they commit to this theory, testing this theory in the early phase, there is that kind of joy-free kind of carelessness that in the early stages isn't so problematic, right? Yeah. Because it injects a new kind of like, what'd you call that?
Life.
It injects a certain kind of like life, and it gives them some kind of momentum, some wind behind their sails, because they're all kind of floundering right now.
Well, Well, yeah, they're not I would say like stuck in the mud, but they're all just kind of dealing with their own type of issues.
Yeah.
And this just gives them like just like a jolt or just a refresher.
That's right. It is
And-
that a jolt, you know.
And so, or like a new, I won't say new purpose, but it's just like, or to be like too dramatic in that aspect.
But to be fair, it does, because like they do run this as an experiment. They document it, right?
Yeah.
And you see them at different points in this movie and in the various acts, them sitting down and kind of typing up like their notes on this.
I like how they shot those too, like with when the screen just goes black and they show like the words and everything. I thought that was cool.
I loved that. I also like visually when these guys are carrying a breathalyzer around to kind of make sure to kind of test where their sobriety is, or their BAC is. I like the cut to the black screen where it just shows you the percentage.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool, effective storytelling.
Dude, especially once they like get like super fucked up.
Oh yeah,
and you see it goes 1 point something. You're like, oh shit, he is feeling it.
He is good.
But like when they were just like doing, like keeping it at 0.5, everything was kind of going kind of good.
It was manageable.
But even when like Martin was, because he showed up to like to his job, to the office or whatever, because that's when he was kind of like when he gets the busted nose. They didn't raise
when he
the
walks
level,
into the door in the wall.
Yeah,
damn,
because he's kind of feeling it a little too much. Like he was like kind of getting a little bit too loose with it. Because they even have a scene with when they were talking about like the difference between what they're doing and alcoholism, saying that like an alcoholic just can't say no, and we dictate when we're going to say yes and when we're going to say no.
Yeah.
And so. But then you start seeing Martin. He starts getting a little bit loose with it. He starts drinking a little too much because things are going too well. So he's just already thinking like, hey, let's
I'm going to ride this wave.
Yeah. And he shows up to the office or like, teacher's lounge or whatever. That's the word I'm looking for, teacher's lounge.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just nobody's really noticing except for his buddies because they know, obviously.
Yeah, they see what's going on.
But he's just kind of, just kind of moving through kind of quickly. And then he ends up busting his damn nose. And it's like, bro. That's when you look at.
Yo, that shit was, he really fucked himself up too.
Dude,
it wasn't like a little oops. It was a wham.
And they also mentioned that the teachers have like that meeting too, talking about how like they were gonna be pretty much just dry, like sober, or like there's no drinking.
They were considering a dry campus because of the students.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so like it's like, bro, you are getting too crazy with it. You can't be showing up to the teacher's lounge all fucked up like this. It's like, oh hell no. So I thought he was about to give it up then, but they kind of reel it in before they start kind of getting out of control with it.
What's also interesting is Larsen, one of the co-stars, he was actually a recovering alcoholic, and I imagine especially obviously they weren't drinking liquor on these scenes, but they were they were very convincing in their depictions of like drunkenness. But
especially Tommy, once he looked, Jesus, he looked a hot mess,
dude. I think that because I suspect that having somebody like that who's actually battled that illness adds just another layer of authenticity.
Yeah.
But I think this movie does a really great job of showing like the positive and negative sides of alcohol.
Yeah, and just like how
especially as the pendulum swings throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. Just like how like it could slowly get out of control, even for people that are trying to do it for research purposes, where it's like, okay, well now let's just bump up the like the minimum content that we're gonna take, and we're gonna try to just like go beyond the threshold, excuse me, and see exactly kind of like what happens. But then you just you lost control at that point.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting though is when Martin starts, because he kind of leads the charge on actually like doing this.
Yeah.
And one of his friends sees him at the front of his class, and just you can tell like something is different in him, the way that he's engaging his students and the way that they're responding. And he kind of says, how long? He kind of asks us about it. He said, "Fantastic."
Well, he was like, "What's your alcohol content?"
Your BAC?
What's your BAC? And he was like 0.1 or something like that, or 0.1.
It was higher. It was high. I think it was pretty. It was. He was clearly under the influence. I can't remember how high it was, but
I thought it was kind of low.
It was definitely higher than I mean, clearly, it was in his system. It was clearly
Yeah,
noticeable.
there was some in there.
Yeah.
And like when he was just like, "Oh, fantastic!" I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," because after that, I'm pretty sure that's when they.
That's when
started.
everybody was like, "All right, let's do this."
Yeah. But then like they Jesus, like I'm starting to get in like some kind of the timelines kind of mixed up here because there's almost feel like I was drinking watching this movie. There's so much drinking. But like when they pretty much have they're gonna like I think it was actually when they were going to raise they're actually going to go pretty much they're going to shit face.
Oh, that's
and then
towards the end.
because like Martin was like yeah, because Martin ends up like reconnecting with his wife. They end up going on that canoe trip.
That was a good scene too.
And like starting to get familiar with his like kids again, back in their lives more. But then that's when the friends meet up again and they decide to like raise the alcohol, try to go beyond the threshold because they say like after having like 7 to 10 drinks or something like that, that's when total oblivion.
Oh, that's like Act 3, yeah. Because like the Act 2,
I'm jumping around a little bit because I just remember like Martin when he was pretty much like out the woods. He had everything reestablished with his kids, and they were all just gonna like I think just push forward. And he was like, "No, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna drink. I got my family back." And his buddy, I think it was Nicholas, he gave him like kind of a hug, like, "You got exactly what you needed out of this experiment." And he was gonna walk out that door, and then he saw that drink on because he heard his friends too. It sounded like he was having fucking FOMO because they were like all like, "Damn, this shit's delicious."
Scene where they make the Sazeracs,
Yeah,
right, and the meter song starts playing and they start dancing. That's like that. I thought that was like a really good scene, because like I think that there's like that bonding experience, right, that I think is also happening. And then, they're just throwing back these Sazeracs. And I like the actual, just like the visual storytelling of seeing them make that, the whole process.
I think that is when they go oblivion.
I think
because like that's when like they're making the drinks, and then they just start slamming those, and then that's when they throw them outside and they're like kind of walking. And then that's what don't they end up at a bar? And then Peter, he ends up with his shirt off.
Yeah, when they go up on...
Yeah, because that's what I thought. Because I'm like, Martin, you were pretty much out the woods. Everything was Gucci. And then once you pick that drink up again, that's when you almost become the alcoholic now. Because you told yourself you're good, and now you're not even dictating yourself anymore. And you pick that drink up, had a drink, and you're like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
And then he started drinking more, cheers everybody. Then he just got fucking shit-faced. And it's like... To me, when I was watching, I'm like, that's when Martin became an alcoholic at that moment for me. Not even joking, man. There's so much drinking in this movie. And I'm not even much of a drinker anyways. I'm more of a smoker, hence doobies. But when they decided to go oblivion, I thought like it was like Tommy maybe, or maybe it was Peter, that was like, okay, let's just start it right now. And then that's when they were like, no, we're not going to do it right now. And then when they started with those, what they call Sazeracs, that's when like Oblivion happened. Because once Oblivion happens, that's when Nikolaj goes home and he can't even go up the stairs.
I think one of the scenes that I remember happening is they get pretty drunk and they need to go to the store to pick up the cod.
Oh my God. To see that. Oh my. Oh, dude.
There's that scene where Peter's in the face of the grocery clerk. He's literally like right in his face. Dude. He's like, where's the cod? Where's the fresh cod?
The clerk was just like backing up into the bottles and he was like, we're out of fresh cod. He's like, what the fuck?
We may have frozen. And he's like, he's slurring his words. Then he ends up falling back and falling down, knocking over a bottle. Just that the opening sequence of them arriving to the store. I think wasn't Peter like he was riding his bike and
yes.
These dudes, and they're like in the aisle. You see them like.
Well, you can see even Tommy. I think Tommy like Mads Mikkelsen does his thing, but the actor that plays Tommy, he looks the most drunk to me, like because he even just kind of waves off the little attendant that's trying to come over and help Peter. He just like, Get out of my face.
That whole scene had me dying, man. And it's like, these dudes are just so fucking drunk. And oh man, it's it's great acting because it's so fucking convincing.
Well, it's really believable.
Yeah,
by all of them.
You can see it. You can totally picture this happening.
Dude, even when God, it's disgusting. But like when Nikolaj's son is laying on top of him,
he pees on him
and stuff. It's like, dude. But then he ends up coming home and he pisses the bed.
His wife is
you hear him, but he's like, he's about to be like, well, how do we know that it wasn't the time? He's trying to blame his kid.
Man,
like,
what a new low.
He's like, well, he pees on me all the time, so fuck it.
She's, I'm going to my mother's, or what is she? I'm going to my sister's. Fix it.
He literally grabs the mattress or like the little cushion thing that's on top and tries to use that as a blanket, which we've all been there at some point or another. We've all been passed out on the floor using some odd thing as a blanket that's not really used for a blanket, a fucking pillow.
That scene, that scene is wild, man. It's very, very entertaining. But also, like you're starting to see like how this increase in alcohol is becoming excessive and becoming increasingly reckless. Compared to where it was, in the first phase, right? Where they were just, drinking a little bit, right, throughout the day. And now you see them shifting up gears because they're thinking, hey, it's been working so far. And this is where you start to see a lot of friction. Like the alcoholism becomes an issue. We see him when he pisses the bed, right? Mm-hmm. And when she's clearly annoyed that he's having this guy's night to drink while she's doing everything, running errands with the kids. Mm-hmm. And so, it's kind of interesting as it goes into that oblivion phase and way off the deep end.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets to reaches its darkest points,
And then you also see in like I said, when you see Peter's, his character and one of his students is having like problems with anxiety, mm-hmm. and he's just so willing to just kind of offer like, hey, have you ever, I mean, granted, because I guess it's such a
stressful,
it's such a stressful time, but like even in that country, like teenage drinking, I guess is whether it's like either an issue or if it's just open like that. Mm-hmm. But he's just willing to just be like, hey man, well, before you do this or that, just, just take a shot, maybe two before your thing. And I'll take the edge off a little bit. And he even, like, during his presentation,
he gives them the vodka.
Yeah, the bottle's in there. And he's like, hey, why don't you take a sip of your water? Yeah. And, but then.
And it works.
It works.
I mean, that's the thing. It calms his nerves.
Yeah. And so, that's why I think this movie does a good job of showing a balance, of showing you potential benefits if you. I mean, I guess if you are a good user that can know how to balance your life and your alcohol content of like, just like a little bit here or there to take the edge off or to help maybe with potential anxiety, as long as you're in a safe space, you're not driving or none, which they don't do in this movie. Mm-hmm. Martin has a scene where he's been drinking at school and he doesn't drive.
And he says he can't drive. Yeah.
Yeah. And they make that a rule, part of one of the rules, like no drinking on the weekend, no drinking
after 8, I think, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, no drinking. It almost sounds like Gremlins. Don't feed them after dark or feed them after midnight. But yeah, I mean, with the movie itself, like I said, it does a good job of balancing potential benefits, because you can't say alcohol is just all destruction. It is a destructive thing, but it does have benefits to it. And I believe this movie showed some good benefits to it. Like I said, relieving anxiety, giving you a self, like re-energize yourself, give you a little bit of oomph, maybe brings out the best of your personalities if you can know how to, just have a sip or two.
With liquid courage too, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Be responsible with it.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think that, that third act, when things kind of really hit the fan, after they've gone oblivion, everyone really, except for Tommy, kind of takes a step back from drinking, and it kind of becomes known in the community, right? Martin's sons tell him that everyone, kind of knows about the drinking.
Mm-hmm. And they've known for a while.
Yeah, for a while. You see the headmaster, the principal of their school, talking about, addressing with a faculty meeting about rumors and now facts that teachers have been drinking throughout the day when they work on the shift. And man, then you see Tommy come in drunk as hell. That was a really tough scene to watch, man.
Quick thing before we get into that, because I do want to talk about that scene. It's another thing about Tommy. Obviously, you said that you see everybody's dynamic, how it affects like with their alcohol, and you get a little glimpse into how Tommy is dealing, because he doesn't have like a wife or kids or anything like that. At least they don't show anything like that. But they do show him just coaching his kids. He obviously takes pride into that. But when he goes into, I'm not sure if it was just like the locker room or storage unit or whatever, and that's when the janitor is in there. And he's finding all of the liquor bottles hidden around and everything. Yep. And he's just like so fucking scared. And he's like, have you told the headmaster or have you told the principal or anything like that? And he's just like, no, not yet. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, mother snitching ass motherfucker. I was like, well, can't you just keep a little something on the DL, bro?
Yeah,
Come
real.
on, man.
Yeah.
Shit, help a brother out. But you can see how many bottles there was. I want to say there was 3, like 2 fifths.
Yeah, he found
and
quite
like
a bit.
A hip one.
Yeah, he definitely found a lot of liquor there.
And then that just, parlays into that scene that you're talking about which it kind of like, once we get into the cons here in a minute, but that scene itself was like, my God, like everybody's kind of like sitting there like, whoa, who can it be? Like, what's going on? And then red-handed walks in the door and he's just a hot mess.
Yeah, man. And Martin is trying to he tries to talk to him and he falls down. And everybody, the jig is up. Like everyone knows what's going on.
There's just no way you can deny it. It's like, bro.
And that was tough, man. When you see Martin at his house checking in on him, taking care of him, and there's this, there's really it's like essentially it's the goodbye, right? When Tommy walks Martin out, he kind of tells me, you don't need to, you guys don't need to keep checking up on me. And you need to keep coming over here and like making me dinner and whatnot. But he tells Martin, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you and Annika. And yeah, there's like something kind of ominous where the way that conversation ends, you think that something's gonna happen to him.
I definitely got that presence or that feeling.
It felt like a goodbye to Martin.
Yeah, because I was like, what's going on here? Which, I mean, like I said, all of our episodes are spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But Tommy eventually commits suicide. He takes him, which kind of fucked up in a way. He takes him and his dog out to the boat. And I'm guessing he just like throws himself overboard or maybe like drinks himself into oblivion and then he just falls overboard, drowns. Yeah. But first of all, why are you just going to leave the dog on the boat? What the fuck?
Probably comfort in his last moments.
I get it, but how's the dog going to get back now?
I mean,
now the dog's just stranded. I mean, not going to be stranded. Eventually somebody's going to come get that dog. But
it's true though.
I kind of have a little issue with it. I mean, I don't really have like too many negatives to say about this movie. But I didn't forget. I mean, because, I mean, granted, people that's struggling with alcoholism, obviously they commit suicide. It's a known fact. But I just felt like I didn't get that vibe from him that he would do something like that. He just seemed fine. I mean, yeah, he's struggling with alcohol, but I didn't think he would like do that. That just felt like he just kind of
fell out of the blue to you.
Yeah, it just kind of felt a little too drastic. It was just like, well, you just got caught at school and maybe now you're just fired. And I don't know, like maybe I just didn't think they built up his character enough for him to do something like that. It just, I don't know. For me, I just didn't really quite agree with it. It didn't like obviously take me out of the story or anything like that. But I was just like, it doesn't like I said, I know how people with alcoholism struggle, so I can't just like knock it. I'm not going to knock it, but for this movie and for that character, I felt like it just didn't fit for me a little bit.
Well, I thought earlier in the movie they kind of breadcrumb like his loneliness because he kind of says something about like not having anyone. I think it's him because of the 4, he and Peter are the ones who are single.
Yeah.
But Peter ends up dating someone. By the end of the movie, right? He talks about he started seeing someone.
He gives the feeling of more of like the open bachelor, not open bachelor, but just like willing bachelor.
Yeah. And I think Tommy, like I said, I kind of remember them kind of touching on like this kind of loneliness that he's felt, and I think the liquor, unfortunately, it causes more harm than it did good. He continues to drink pretty heavily after they abandon the experiment after what happens, just the fallout from Oblivion.
Well, even when they take him back when Martin takes him back to the house, he was about to like crack open the bottle, and he was like, "Hey, Tommy, you should take it easy."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah." And so, like I said, maybe if I watched it again, maybe I could catch up on a little bit more clues that could like help me out to better understand it a little bit, to like maybe make that seem a little bit better. But just off first watch, and also that plays into. I mean, it's it's not a negative for me, but I don't really mind subtitles or foreign films like that too much. But excuse me. But sometimes it just takes the impact can maybe get lost just a little bit, just because of you looking at the screen, then looking at the words, looking at the screen, looking at the words, and so it's just like that. That's just something that happens with subtitles a lot, especially with foreign films. Like if I'm watching an American movie with subtitles, that's different because I can still hear it. That's just there just for like every once in a while.
Yeah.
But with the foreign movie, I'm constantly having to look down and make sure or sometimes I read it too fast and I think it's changed and I look back down and it's still on the same words.
Yeah.
That's just something that to each
Because
their
with
own.
foreign flicks, I get you though.
But like I said, maybe if I watched it again, I could pick up on a few notes with Tommy's character that I didn't quite catch on the first go around. But I will say I do love his relationship with Specs.
Oh yeah, that was really
adorable.
that was endearing. Like I mean, I thought that was like a really cool scene too. Like just seeing his bond with the with the players.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a really cool part of it. Just like I thought it helped you understand him more, give him some depth as a character.
Yeah, and seeing like the little soccer scene when he's kind of coaching him up too.
Yeah.
He's like, hit that, do there, and you see Specs gets the winning goal or a goal. I'm not sure it's the winning goal, but and then he does Ronaldo's his celebration.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, that shit's adorable, man.
Yeah, and he like comes up to Tommy as well,
Yeah.
like clearly like he was a believer from day one kind of thing.
I was like, who was Specs? They didn't, obviously they're not going to go into like every character's little story, but it just felt like he was like,
one of the kids.
He was just like, I was like, where's his parents at?
Yeah,
like,
you never see that. I don't remember seeing that. Yeah,
and then when they're all like, you see Specs just grabbing Tommy's hand and starts holding his hand too. I was just like, where's his parents at, man?
Yeah,
he just seemed like and it seemed like obviously when he was talking about the water, that was a funny scene when he was just like Specs asked him for his water.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, no, you can't have this water.
Like, why can't I have yours?
he tells the other kid like, hey man, you give him your water. He's like, why can't you give him your water? And it's like, motherfucker, just give him the goddamn water. Stop back talking.
Oh, for real. Yeah, that was a funny scene. I think something I did want to talk about was more on the cinematography front. I liked. It felt like a very. I know he was going for a very like kind of more of a realism in the way that it was shot. Which included a lot of handheld cameras and natural lighting, and I thought like I liked that aspect of it. It definitely felt. It felt it hits different.
Just like.
Because I mean, especially when you're trying to capture the scenes where they're drunk, right?
Yeah, well,
like I think the handheld cameras, I think would be more effective in being able to kind of, capture that irky jerky kind of motion at times.
Yeah, you get the shaky cam kind of
deal.
But it's not like overzealous in the fact of like it's overused or it's like it's used in the right moments, and like you still can like see what's going on.
Yeah,
even like at the end when Martin is finally like having a good time and he's like doing his little jazz ballet and the camera is just kind of whipping around in a way. It's like you're not even like, I don't get dizzy from that type of shit, but you can still see exactly what's going on. You're not getting lost or anything with
That's a really good scene
with how fast everything is kind of happening.
Yeah, and
with the fast cuts too, because they're cutting in and out.
The fast cuts. I was gonna say like the cinema, like the actual cinematography of that scene where they're hitting oblivion. They're like literally just going like somebody like who was it was like collapsing in the corner.
Yeah,
like that scene was really intense, and I think like that the way that they shot it, it kind of contributed to that mood of just like chaos.
Yeah. Another shot that I did like too, we talked about it off mic, was when Peter's in class and he's teaching the kids, and he's like, he shuts the lights off and he goes to the back of the class. You see him shut the shades a little bit, but there's enough light to poke in, so you see the silhouette of him, and you see him whip out his flask or whatever and just take like a nice little gulp. It's like that's a nice shot. You see all the kids in front just with their heads down trying to learn, and him back there just getting a little shitty, litty titty.
Yeah. One of the highlights for me, I think, really touched on just, I think fundamentally like what this movie is about. Is the scene where the student Sebastian, the one that needed some alcohol to kind of, the one that Peter offered the alcohol to kind of help him calm his nerves, where he's sitting for an exam, and the movie comes back to Kierkegaard, and Sebastian talks about anxiety, dealing with failure, and the importance of accepting ourselves as fallible in order to like love ourselves and to love life. You saw that scene, like, did it feel like, how did it strike you in the course of the movie? How did it land with you? So the scene at the very end when Sebastian is sitting for his exam and he talks about, he's asked about Kierkegaard, right? He's talking about
like when he's
dealing with
doing
failure.
the exam?
Yeah. Like, how did that scene land with you, and like that dialogue land with you in the context of just like what this movie was about?
Well, I mean, I thought it landed like pretty well. I mean, the scene itself, I mean, because like I thought that the actor, like, he did a good job of like showing his anxiety throughout his speech, and then once he takes a little sip of it, he definitely let his guard down a bit, and he felt like he can speak a lot more clearly throughout the exam. But what exactly was he saying though? I don't even remember exactly what he was like talking about.
He was talking about like just human anxiety, and I think being able to deal with failure how it arrives in our lives and how it presents itself. And yeah, I think like being able to embrace like that we are going to fail, we are going to have our shortcomings in order to like be able to like love life and also love like other people. I guess like when I think about this movie, I do think about like the role of anxiety, and particularly for Martin's character, and how he's almost stopped moving. He's just standing still. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with fear. I think it has something to do with fear, right? Because, I mean, you see that at the beginning of the movie, he's really kind of self-conscious and doesn't really have the confidence or courage to do the jazz dance. But by the end, he's doing that.
And I think he's like just kind of lost in a way of
He's
just
more
like
in the moment, you know?
Because like you saw him like, there were moments where like he was sober and he was still having a good time, because I think that was when he was like actually on the canoe trip. Yeah, and that's when they go to black and they show like his alcohol content, and it was like 0. And so I feel like his character was also like, I mean, an anxiety of him being lost in a way of like losing purpose or something. Because if like, I mean, if his students are losing like interest in him, his wife is losing interest in him, then he's kind of like losing, like, what the hell am I still doing here? Like, even when he leaves the house and he's like, nobody has to wait for me. Nobody has to wait for me.
Yeah, that's when he finds out, his wife was having an affair. Well, I mean, just like thinking about kind of pivoting towards the end of this movie, right? Where I love the ceremony where, there's just like unfortunate juxtaposition, right? Where on the one hand you have like this moment of celebration, right? There are two kinds of celebrations, right? There's like the celebration of like the life of Tommy, who's dead now, and like paying respects to him. And then you also have the celebration of graduation, these seniors graduating, and like seeing those two like towards the end of the movie side by side, when they're grabbing dinner, or they're eating, they're drinking to Tommy's name, and then they end up stepping out and like really kind of celebrating with these kids. And I think like there's that added layer of like hopefulness too, because Martin has tried to kind of patch things up and wants to be back with his wife. He misses her, and initially she kind of leaves him hanging, but by the end of the movie she says that she misses him too, and that kind of is like a moment of hope that I think like helps kind of carry him forward, like in a better direction. It seems right, even though he's still drinking, he's not.
And also just like that that aspect of, I mean, when you obviously like when suicide becomes in the picture, that's to me that's like an example of not suicide itself, but like how you have the scene with the funeral and then you go outside and then they're all celebrating their graduation. How he's sitting kind of, they're somber at the dinner table, but then he finally gets a text message from his wife saying he misses it or she misses him.
I miss you too.
A
Yeah,
lot.
she said, yeah.
It's like wherever there might be some like some shitty stuff or some bad stuff around the corner, there's always like could be some good stuff waiting around you too. So as bad as it may be now, it can get better. It will get better. And so as long as you try to stick it out and try to like get through it, you'll probably come out on the other side. But it was just a good all in all good scene at the end when you see like the dinner table and how like they're obviously asked for a table of 4. They leave the open seating, open seat for Tommy. I was like, man, that's a nice little heartwarming moment.
Yeah.
Especially I really like Tommy too.
I did too.
He was a good character.
I liked all these main characters actually. I thought all of them. I found myself liking all of them. Peter, especially like when he was really trying to, support that student because he knew how anxious he was. He was trying to be supportive there. Tommy with Specs, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like Nikolai's just funny as hell. Like he and his wife when he pisses the bed.
They all had like very good, like whether it's high moments or like low moments when it's like their character like got beat down. Because like and Nikolai's is honestly his comes at like the same scene because it's funny as shit him being shit faced pissing the bed, but then him just sitting there just shirtless, just like, oh bro, you're toast, bro.
Yeah, for real.
You're done, man.
Yeah.
But I know we've talked about a lot of good things about the movie, but are there any negatives? I mean, I did mention like with the whole like Tommy committing suicide. It's not a huge negative for me, but I felt like maybe on a second watch I could understand a little bit better of why he did that. But I thought maybe that was a little too much, but didn't take me out of the story or anything.
I was gonna say I can't really think of anything that took me out of the story. I thought that I really liked the story. I thought it was a cool concept to see kind of unfold throughout the movie, and it was nice because like there's also like you're kind of embedded in like this culture, right? I think it does it very successfully at the beginning and even at the end, right? Where we start off with these youth drinking in excess, celebrating, and then we end with that too.
Yeah. And
this time, with Martin jumping into the water, but I don't really have. I'm trying to think of a negative for me. Like I didn't. There weren't scenes where I was like, oh, this is kind of dragged out. Like what's going on here? I think that it did a great job throughout this movie of balancing humor with like the darker elements of alcoholism. But it didn't feel like. It wasn't doing it in a finger wagging kind of way,
Yeah.
So I think that also speaks to the kind of the realism that I think the director was able to like successfully bring into this.
Well, like I mentioned, I thought it was like it showed you like some positives, but also a lot of negatives with it because it's not a be all end all with like drugs or alcohol. There are some positives.
Yeah.
Well, with I should say with drugs. I mean. Like coke and fucking crack. That's a little extreme. I'm talking like weed and alcohol.
For sure.
There's positives and negatives to both of those.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not a negative for me. But obviously, hence doobies. I'm more of a smoker. Alcohol isn't really. I'm not much of a drinker too much anymore. So it's definitely a subject matter that like doesn't quite would like make me want to grab it off the shelf because, like I said, I'm just not really much of a drinker anymore. And seeing all this alcohol on the screen, man, sometimes it takes me back to some hangover days where I'm like, yo, I might fucking puke right now.
No, I hear you.
So if the sight of alcohol makes you nauseous, you may want to stay away from it. Just saying.
This is a movie that I absolutely would recommend. It's not a movie that I'll revisit a lot, but I mean, that doesn't, to me, like, rewatchability can have some impact at times. But, if a movie's objectively good, it's good. I mean, regardless of whether or not I'll return to it a lot. I think this movie definitely worked for me on a lot of levels.
Well, like for like rewatchability for me, because I know that does weighs for my score. It's when I think of rewatchability, it's like would I actually like want to watch it again? Like if somebody was like, "Hey, you trying to watch another round?" I'd be like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Pop it on. Like, have you seen it or like have you not seen it? I'll get into that. But like, let's say we did a previous recording of let's just say another movie that we gave a negative score to. I would never. I mean, like, I would have to be really pushed to like watch the movie again. Yeah. So like when rewatchability comes into play, it's like, dude, I don't care if you've seen it or not. Like, I have to really like, is this the only movie? Is the power out? We only have this old VHS or something.
Do we not have Uno?
I know. Do we not have cards or something? I'm like, do you really want to watch this movie? Yeah. It's like it's not that. But so like rewatchability, it's not like I'll watch this like 1,000 times. Yeah. But it's like would I pop it on again if somebody wanted to watch it? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you want to get to your score? You want to lead off with your score?
Y'all kick us off, man. For me, I give this a solid 4. I think. Mads is a really he's a really good actor. This
Mads
movie
in his bag.
He was in his bag. And this is it just I think is another feather in his cap. He's been a part of he's been in some really good pictures with some really really strong roles. I think the cinematography of it worked for me. The character arcs, I feel like you did a good job of grounding you and giving you writing well-rounded characters. Like I feel like these were actual people, not characters.
Yeah, for having four different characters, I think they all got a good, like I said, slice of the pie.
Yeah,
Mads was the leading guy, but I don't think any of the other 3 got like outshined anybody as far as like lines or parts or stuff like that.
Yeah, they all did their thing.
Yeah, it was like maybe like what kind of percentage could I say? I don't even want to think about math right now.
But yeah, I'm sticking with a 4, man.
4?
What you got? Yeah.
I'm going with 3.5.
Okay.
The only thing that keeps me back is, like I said, the subject matter doesn't like. I don't mind of the movie being like an international movie. I don't really mind too many reading subtitles or not. But like talking about like alcoholism and stuff, doesn't really like make me want to grab it off the shelf. Like I said, I'm just not like a huge drinker or anything like that. If this was another round, far as pot or weed. Now we maybe be talking my jam, but I would say just 3.5. Yeah, I know. Is there like an actual serious weed movie? Not that fucking like 70s bullshit. But is there an actual like a weed movie where it's like it will give you like some positives and negatives of it? I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Dazed and Confused? I don't know, I'm joking. I mean, weed's a big part of that movie.
I guess like when you bring weed into it, it just can't help itself but be a comedy.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, even Harold and Kumar, right? There was some weed in that movie, wasn't there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They go to Harvard or whatever it was, Princeton.
Which one?
When they went to like Princeton or something like that to get the weed, right?
Is that where they? And Harold and Kumar?
Yeah, the first one. Didn't they go to like Princeton or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Because they were in New Jersey, right? Hello, New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Prepare to gorge yourself.
Dude, I do like Harold and Kumar's Christmas movie.
The first one?
Well, they would have Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
Escape from Guantanamo
and
Bay.
Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Then they have like some sort of Harold and Kumar, like maybe Do Christmas or something.
I didn't see the Christmas one.
I don't know. They have a Christmas one, but it's actually pretty good.
The first one is pretty classic. You sank my battleship.
But here we go again.
I know,
again.
into Louise.
But that's my score. I'm gonna give another round 3.5.
Yeah,
3.5. Solid movie. Mads Mikkelsen is great, even when he's not a villain. Quick shout out to him in a movie called Polar, because everybody has their John Wick movie. Keanu Reeves is the infamous. Then we also got boy from Better Call Saul. He's in a movie called Nobody. Then
Saul Goodman.
Saul Goodman. That's not his name or his real name. Then you have Denzel and Equalizer. Then you have to take it back to maybe the original with Liam Neeson as Taken. Everybody has their fucking like old guy is an assassin. I'm gonna kick your fucking ass. But Mads Mikkelsen, he also has his own movie called Polar. People should check that out.
Oh, okay.
But Another Round gets 3.5 for me.
All right. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you for joining us. Stick around. Next week, we're going to be dropping another review. Trying to figure out what genre we're going to go with. Maybe horror. We'll see. It's still up in the air, but stay tuned. Peace.